Africa has the potential to be a global agricultural powerhouse. Yet today, changing weather patterns and fierce competition for its mineral and agricultural wealth is threatening the continent's ability to feed its own people. As its deserts grow bigger and its droughts become more frequent, those who live off the land face an uncertain future. The recent discovery of resources like oil and gas hold great promise for development. Global superpowers are once again looking to Africa to secure the natural resources they need to drive their own economies. But smallholder farmers who have the potential to lift their communities out of poverty face an immense struggle. A small group of dedicated organizations are working across the continent to ensure the rights of smallholder farmers to their own land are upheld.
According to the IPCC, extreme events have actually increased almost 20 times compared to the situation during the pre-industrial period. So meaning that we are now having more frequent droughts and floods with much higher magnitudes as compared to the situation before. Both floods and droughts have definitely implications on food production. Talking about droughts, for example, we know several cases where actually this continent has experienced dramatic crop failure leading into food insecurity and hunger and you name it, and simply because there was no enough rains.
Since the discovery of natural gas off the coast 10 years ago, Mozambique's economy has been booming, growing at an average of 6% per annum. Portugal, Brazil, China, Japan and its neighbour South Africa have all been clamouring for a stake in the country's newfound wealth. New roads and bridges compete with newly built skyscrapers to reshape the skyline of its capital, Maputo. This is what is keeping Costa and his fellow smallholder farmers awake at night. They fear losing land as the government of Mozambique rushes to conclude intergovernmental agreements with its new partners.
Government has signed a memorandum with the Brazilian government and Japan government for an agribusiness project called ProSavana. 19 districts will be involved and many smallholder farmers will be affected by these projects. We have challenged the government before the court of law just to ensure that the lands of the communities are not taken over by these projects, to ensure also the access to information and participations of the communities and civil society organizations.
The Bar Association of Mozambique says the project will need 14.5 million hectares in 19 districts. Their legal challenge has slowed down the process to ensure the government consults with smallholder farmers. But it is not just farming land that is under threat from the so-called investment drive by multinational businesses. The country's beautiful coastline is being developed at pace, and dozens of new hotels and resort complexes have sprung up. Emidia Oliveira from the Community Land Initiative, or ITC, is working to ensure the locals who fished along this coast for centuries are still able to access it.
There are some situations, sad situations, where they build those beautiful mansions by the coast and interrupt a natural access of fishermen to the water.
Working with government and other NGOs, Emidia has been able to assist these in Gaia province in getting certificates of ownership for their land. This has helped them obtain modern equipment to help improve their yields, so they are better able to feed their families.
ndipfune kwekuda la associação ndarima kuma leswi ya ndisa vatsongwana swo sweswi senga kuma ku amfumo ifuna ku hitisela ama project ya ku ta idyondzisa hi tiva ku rima hi tlhela hi xavisa.
Just north of Mozambique lies Zambia. The country has managed to avoid the wars that have marked much of Africa's post-colonial history. The landlocked country, like its neighbour, has seen rapid economic growth over the last decade. It is Africa's second largest copper producer after the Democratic Republic of Congo. But this growth, which is driven by massive Chinese investment, has failed to improve the lives of most Zambians.
There are two interest groups which are on the extreme ends. One is government and their priorities. The other one are the traditional leaders who are the chiefs and their head persons. They have different groups. Now, when you look at the traditional leaders, they govern land according to their customs, their cultures and traditional norms, and which do not embrace transparency. The government is perceived to be pro-investment, large-scale land-based investment, and commercial farming, and so forth. And this is perceived to be at the expense of the local communities.
For me, in this chiefdom, the issue is for the subjects, because even when an investor comes and he wants a huge piece of land, the bottom line is to see, is this investment going to benefit the local people? We said finally we need to give a document to a person to indicate that that piece of land has been given and allocated, and traditionally within the powers of the traditional leader, he or she is able to hold that certificate and that piece of land.
Chief Ndage is one of many traditional leaders that have been working with the Zambia Land Alliance to issue land holding certificates to women. The certificates give single women rights to farm and to inherit rights, which were previously not given. More than 12,000 certificates have been issued by traditional leaders in the last few years. It's a major step in improving food security for the country and entrenching women's rights.
Pakalipo pesa kaitwa kuti sitikana power kuti paswera ati tinali kuvutika na mandebazo katolima tia iwe ndo kazi sunga kale na landi kuru bafuna kujua batenge. So pamene kunabwera ko Land Alliance bamba kutipunzisa bichite so mpeni na pesa power kuti niende nikatenge pepa kuti nikale nene wamasuka kulima palandi yanga nene nikale my own land.
After decades of struggle against colonial rule, countries like Mozambique and Zambia finally have the opportunity to harness its natural resources for the benefit of its people. With global demand for those resources on the rise, it's tempting for governments to sell them to the highest bidder in the name of funding future growth and development. But changing weather patterns are bringing higher levels of uncertainty than ever before. One thing that is for certain is that those who have rights to farm their own land are more likely to invest in it. For those who work to ensure this, there is still lots of work to be done. For the continent's pastoralists, changing weather patterns and negative social and political perceptions threaten their very existence at a time where their knowledge and experience could be very useful in the quest to ensure a constant supply of food well into the future. Lomala is among the 20% of people who make a living through pastoralism in East Africa. For centuries, they have been moving their livestock in search of water and good grazing. Here in Kimoja, in the north of Uganda, cattle are more than just a form of sustenance or income.
Kimya hiyo nyapinya bila ne dolia milinda ngaragi ni ngidi de lo meta kana wetni itiya tanga turu nya bubu maka beranu ya kalore ya wotana ria ngatani ata makile uya ga bubu tanara waret ni robe wan kai re di mitlo ro tanai no kai Aga je bubu tani aga tare. Pili pedo rito. Ranga tinga. Kene yung miligu lo den kan. Pedo ta aga tare amana jigne takin. Ya kailo takante.
Wednesday is market day in Kotido. It's the best opportunity to meet the community as they plan their next migration. Milton Luperia from the Warrior Squad Foundation is here to share the grazing routes and outline a general code of conduct which the organization has developed with the community. This is to avoid conflict with other farmers. Many see the pastoralists as a nuisance, and it gets worse when water is scarce.
Last year and the beginning of this year, actually, Karamoja experienced lack of water. It was hit seriously by drought the previous year. So the people had to migrate. Even the Turkana came and they had to go together with the Karamojongs to the other parts of the Uganda, the northern part, Kitgum, Magago, despite the fact that there was a resistance in their entry. Investing in the personal code of conduct is like you've solved a multitude of issues. Even water, they know that this is area where we want.
The organization, working with the community, created a map tracking their migration patterns so they could engage farmers and local officials.
They wanted to see how best they can be supported because they were not supported. They could report incidences of crime. They are not getting health services. They are not getting even education services. That suits the pastoralists as they move.
Uganda is promoting more efficient uses of its natural resources to improve the country's growth prospects. It's put pastoralists in conflict with government policy.
It's the northern part of Uganda, which has seen a great deal of strife because of the wars and movements so forth since Idi Amin's time until President Yoweri Museveni came in to pacify people. There's still been very pastoral area. However, you need to bring agriculture into it.
There is no deliberate move to zone the land usage in order to have the pastoralist rights recognized and observed as compared to cultivators, because the drive today is let's produce more crops, cash crops, and put into the market. But there is no deliberate effort made to consider pastoralists, especially in terms of zoning, providing the corridors for them to graze their livestock.
For now, the Warrior Squad Foundation's work has brought peace to Kimoja. Lomala will choose which of his sons will take over as head of his household when he is no longer around. But unless the rights of these proud, nomadic people who continue to move around to feed their animals as they have for centuries is assured, that future is a bleak one. In Kenya alone, 20 million hectares of land is under large-scale agricultural production. Big international investors bring modern equipment, drought and disease-resistant seed, and much-needed foreign investment. In exchange, they expect market access and a favorable business environment. This includes influencing legislation in their favor.
So our farmers' rights suffered irreparably when the multinational companies were allowed to sit at the forefront of legislation writing, and with very low participation from farmers and from all the organizations that are working with farmers. They were able to pass a very draconian law that makes it criminal for farmers to save their seed, to replant their seed, to exchange their seed. So the Crops Act of Kenya and the Seed Breeders Act do not recognize the constitutional clause that says seeds and local indigenous genetic resources belong to farmers.
In many instances, it has resulted in small farmers having to pay for imported seeds for crops they have been growing for centuries.
Why would commercial companies be in that area unless they are beginning to make a lot of money from that.
Imported seed is expensive, especially if you're a subsistence farmer. Seed Savers is an organization working with small farmers to develop their own seed banks using traditional local seeds they say have become drought and disease resistant over time.
When the Seed Savers Network came, they told us about farming without fertilizers, which we did not have money to buy, planting our indigenous seeds, which we don't need to go to Agrovet, and we did not have money. So we liked the idea so much because that's what we wanted to hear. We saw Seed Savers as God-sent people. They came to us when we needed them most. And that's why we embraced this seed bank idea, or this organic farmer, with 2 hands, because we really needed it at that time.
They started the seed bank with only 2 varieties of maize and beans. Now they have over 40 varieties of seeds. Some are old seeds which were collected from old people in the community who were traditionally preserving them. Seed Savers has partnered with another NGO, Hivos, to patent these seeds as open source to ensure they cannot be commercialized and remain accessible to local farmers.
We have seen that most of the seeds come from multinationals. However, some of these seeds, hybrid seeds, are very expensive to smallholder farmers to afford. So if you go to rural areas, most of the farmers still use their own seeds that they used to do that were more disease resistant, pest resistant, as well as also they used to have that climate friendly qualities.
Free access to seeds that are able to withstand the severe weather conditions brought on by climate change brings a level of stability to the lives of small farmers. It's an important part of the plan to ensure Africa can become food secure in spite of the uncertainty that climate change will bring. Ghana has undergone one of the worst droughts ever. It's put severe pressure on farmers.
Our irrigation is just about 1 to 5% of what we use in our food production. So food production in Ghana is largely rainfall dependent. So with the advent of climate change, one, we are seeing changes in the duration of rainfall. We are seeing the amounts decrease. We are seeing intensity, sometimes high intensity, but over short periods of time. So we've seen the amount of water that is available for crop production gradually reducing over time. Now, in the process, we are also seeing a decline in the fertility of the soil.
You wait for the rain, you till the field, you wait for the rain. When the rain starts, then you start cropping, which is quite different. At times, so if there is the rain failure, then you are in trouble. When the rains don't come, then you are in trouble. It means you harvest anything. It means no money on you. So this is number one problem.
These changing circumstances have made it more difficult for farmers to survive. The Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana is working to change this.
Most of them have stopped growing food crops and now changed into cash crops such as cashew, cocoa, coffee, and all these crops are produced for export. And we are thinking that if you don't come out with a strategy that will help us be able to produce more food for domestic consumption and for the regional market, there will come to a time getting food to eat in the rural areas will become a problem.
You cannot put all your eggs in one basket. You can talk of livestock farming on the other hand. We can talk of crop farming on the other hand, and we can talk of bee farming to another in the forest. So this is the basic setup here.
What we have to do is to help our farmers adapt. Adaptation is key. Now, in adapting, I think the point is that we must focus on the economic sustainability of the farm.
At the agroecology farm in Nkawi, food production experts are working with local farmers to try more sustainable farming methods that improves crop yields and is kinder on the environment.
When we started the project, we started by trying to establish a baseline of the state of farming in the country to also understand the farmers' indigenous farming practices. Now we did that by conducting a baseline survey. So we were able to establish the needs of the farmers and their indigenous knowledge in farming. We then developed what we call a training manual. And then we train farmer leaders, 400 farmer leaders. Apart from that, we established a demonstration farm in Techiman. And that demonstration farm is serving as a training center for all the farmers within the catchment areas to always go there to learn.
We demonstrate to farmers on the need to adopt practices that will not require so much external input. The agroecology concept it means bringing together the integrated system practices, bringing together different activities that is geared towards eliminating or minimizing the effect of climate change on our environment or on our small pieces of land.
Nti eba sahano nti ma hu se kokoo no bewu nti no me de adwuma foforo abata ho se nkokoi wo mo wo ho nti se kokoo no ema se entime moa me kora metima aton bi me wo mponche so wo ho that means no ma sare mere so e ka ho a ene so ebeboa me e wo pebiri no.
While the effects of climate change are being discussed across the world, the small-scale farmers of Ghana are feeling its impact already. Demonstrating that agroecology works is already showing yields. More and more farmers are participating in the training programs and seeing the results. It's real progress in a field that, for the longest time, has only shown decline. From the oceans of Mozambique to the deserts of the Sahara, the effects of climate change are impacting on the continent's ability to feed itself. Changing weather patterns are playing havoc with food production, significantly impacting subsistence farmers who rely on their produce for a living. While scientists are researching its impact, farmers across the continent are feeling it in their pockets and on their tables. The African Climate Change Adaptation Initiative, or ACAI, was established to develop a research to assist countries to cope with the impact of climate change.
The ACAI project is across the entire continent. So we have partners in Tanzania, we have partners in Ethiopia, we have partners in Ghana, and then also in South Africa, more than one higher education institution. The level of support in each of these countries vary quite a bit. But what I can say is that the principal investigators in each of these countries that we brought together to collectively deliver on the ACAI project are the types of investigators and the types of scientists and academics that have a high profile in their own country, and they have the ability to speak directly to government. They have those networks within country. So I'd like to think that ACAI had a larger than usual impact by virtue of the excellent people that we've involved in the network. So within the ACAI project, we focused on trying to target as many diverse actors as possible. And it was quite important is that we recognize the local context and the local knowledge to solve and address and learn more about the problems in different parts of the continent. So within this local context and in these diverse actors, and by diverse actors I mean local government, researchers, obviously students, and also local farmers, we try and provide them with the appropriate information that they need to respond better to climate change for food security.
Here at the University of Ghana, research is being conducted in the use of agroecology to create a more sustainable way of managing increasingly erratic rainfall patterns.
In the northern part of Ghana where rainfall patterns are low, it is going to go bad. Whilst in the forest areas where rainfall patterns are good, it is going to be better. So there are trade-offs. If we don't try to sustain the soils that are in the northern part of Ghana, and we ourselves believe that that part of Ghana is our food basket. So if we do not try to sustain that, then I tell you it's going to get worse until we realize that no, we need to empower ourselves to be able to contain the condition. And if the person doing this does not understand why he or she is doing that, then it's going to be difficult to convince that person to do what you want him to do. Now, this is a farmer that needs to survive, so he needs to cut down the tree, plant, and then get food. At the same time, you are telling that farmer to preserve the tree, but still plant and get food. So you see, so there's that kind of trade-off, but I think we need to be able to build the capacity of the farmer first, to be able to understand this, so he can now come back and say, yes, I understand why I don't have to cut the tree. But there are other ways, other technologies that are available to me that can help me still increase my food production. So policy will have to do more in terms of building the capacity of the farmer to understand the link between the environment and food production.
5 universities on the continent have participated in the Akai initiative, with 250 students embarking on master's level research and more than 40 students in the PhD program.
So mine especially will build on the cocoa agroforestry literature, which had tended to look at whether there are benefits for including the trees on the farms. But one good thing is mine goes further to pick different shade trees and look at if we have a mixture of different shade trees for each climate region, what are the benefits?
The results of this research are expected to support changing government policy and greatly enhance the continent's ability to adapt to an increasingly uncertain future.